All right, so let's just start with your name
Margaret Jones,
and your age, if you're comfortable sharing that.
75.
75. And what social media platforms do you use now?
What social media platforms do I use now?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I use Facebook. Um, I use email,
Okay.
texting. I'm learning to text.
Learning to text. Okay. All right. And how old were you when you first started using computers?
I was about 48 when I started using a personal computer.
All right. And what did you first use computers for?
I used it only for writing papers
Okay.
and letters.
Okay.
I was not online.
Okay. All right. And how do you use computers now?
Well, I'm online now. I use computers for research. I use them for communication. I use them for news.
Okay. And how have computers, if they have affected how you read and write, how have computers affected how you read and write?
Well, I write more now that I have a computer because it's easy to do that. Um, I have a dictionary immediately at my fingertips. My hands are arthritic, so I very seldom sit down and use a pen and pencil anymore. And it helps me to compose because it's very easy to write something and edit something when it's being done on the computer. So that's one aspect of it. Ask the question again.
How have computers affected how you read and write?
How I read and write. All right. How I read. Um, I would say that the computer has provided me with an opportunity to do gather more in-depth information when I want information about a particular subject. And it also has eliminated my newspaper reading because if I'm curious about something that's happening in the world, I can go immediately to the computer online and get as much information as I wish.
Hmm, okay. And how old were you when you first started using the internet?
I was 16 years ago. How old was I 16 years ago?
59.
59. 59 when I started using the internet.
Okay. And what did you first use the internet for?
I used it for email.
Okay. All right. And how do you use it now?
Well, I use it for email. I use it for gathering information. I use it for Facebook. I keep in touch with many of my friends that way. Um, I sometimes use it for watching television. I don't use it for music. I prefer putting on the old-fashioned stereo or a CD or a radio. I don't use the computer for that, even though I know I could. I'm not fully utilizing the capacities of the computer.
Gotcha. I know you addressed this a little bit earlier, but um, how has the internet affected how you read and write? You know, differently than just having a computer.
How has the computer?
Now, how has the internet affected
Oh,
how
the
you read?
internet affected how I read and write. Well, I'm just trying to think. I still do a lot of reading, book reading. I mean, I don't do reading on the computer. Sometimes I will read an article that a friend has posted on the computer. I take the New Yorker, but sometimes a friend might send me an article that she found really interesting in the New Yorker, and so I'm interacting with her ideas as I'm reading that particular article. So we're sort of having a conversation, which if I were at home reading the New Yorker as a magazine, or even if I were reading it in the computer and I hadn't received the article from her, it would be a more isolated experience. So in a way, it's a connective experience. Um, Writing. How has using the internet affected my writing? Well, I probably write more in the sense that I respond to, I might respond respond to that friend who sent me the article via writing. And also I might send an idea that I picked up quickly to a friend via email. And since I just got an iPhone, I might find that I'm using the iPhone to do some of that. I don't know. I've had the iPhone exactly a week and a half.
Okay. Well, that segues into the next question. Is how old were you when you first started using a cell phone? And I know you just got an iPhone, but just the time when you first got your
first cell phone. I don't remember. Probably about 69 or 70.
Oh, cell phone.
Cell phone. We haven't had a cell phone very long.
Oh, that's your age. Okay, I thought you meant 1969.
No.
1970.
No.
Okay, right.
No.
I thought maybe you had a secret life that. So and when you first got your cell phone, what did you use it for?
For travel, so that we could be in touch with one another and be in touch with the people at our destination or people at home. Very limited use.
Right. So having had your iPhone for all of a week and a half, what are some ways that you're using cellular technology now that was different?
Well, certainly I'm learning to text. That's been limited, but I'm learning to text, and I've received some texts from neighbors. I'm checking the weather. I'm checking the news. I'm reading my email. I actually haven't made very many phone calls. We've just learned how to answer a phone call and how to make a phone call on the iPhone. And then the research possibility of the voice, of Siri's voice, is new to me. She hasn't been too helpful so far. We don't seem to speak the same language. I need to learn to speak her language. She's never going to learn to speak mine.
Right. And again, this is all new to you right now, but you are reading the news. So how is the use of cellular technology beginning to affect how you read and write?
Well, sometimes, I'm just trying to think. For instance, I wanted to know what the results of the New York primary election was. Now, if I had picked up a newspaper, I probably would have read the entire article. Picking it up via the cellular technology, I just got the one-sentence answer. So in some ways, it's limiting because I have the basic information, but I don't have the richness and the fullness of it in terms of someone's writing and vocabulary and analysis. I suppose I could do all of that via the cellular, but I just wanted a quick answer, and that's what I got.
And how old were you when you first started using social media?
I was probably 72.
Okay. And what motivated you to engage in using social media?
I really cannot remember why I went on Facebook. I just did. Okay.
And how do you use Facebook day to day?
Oh, I read it several times a day. I have some friends who post very interesting articles, and I like to read them. I have hidden many friends who get up every morning and chat with some other friends about what a beautiful day is and how they're having their first cup of coffee. I don't care about that. So I hide them. I limit my contact with them. Every now and then I check in to see if there's anything significant happening in their lives. But when they're using it just for personal things, I don't want to read that chit chat every day. I'm more interested in reading articles, and I get some wonderful, I'm in contact with some wonderful art museums. And I really enjoy that because I am seeing artwork that is private. I'm seeing artwork in museums around the world that I probably will never step foot in, but it provides me with the opportunity to experience these wonderful pieces of art.
Right, and that actually that transitions into the next, question. Have social media platforms changed the way you socialize and share information?
Well, yeah, I really answered a lot of that in the last question, didn't I?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do share a lot of the artwork, and I have about 5 or 6 friends that are very appreciative of it. They enjoy, they're responsive, and sometimes we have some discussions about it. Politically, I have forwarded some political information that's come to me via Facebook. It's nice to have some of the information. Some of the information is dubious. I think that I could be misled, or other people could be misled about political articles or opinions that are posted. I feel a little uncomfortable about it, and I'm hoping I'm going to try to not participate in posting any social media political things during the actual presidential campaign. I think that I'm better off, well, I could do it via social media, but I think I'm better off maintaining contact with NPR for information about the presidential election.
Right. How has social media affected, and you've talked a little bit about this, but how has social media affected how you read and write?
Well, sometimes I'm still reading. I'm still reading. I will always be a reader. Quite often it points me in a direction that I'd like to do research on in terms of reading. So it's enhanced my reading to some degree. The writing, well, I don't know. I don't know how it's affecting my writing.
What do you consider some of the positive aspects of social media? Positive aspects of social media.
Well, I think it's a great way of keeping in contact with one another. It's a great way of sharing some information, personal information, and information about the world. I enjoy it. I do. I'm not defining that very well. Probably a question I need to think about more.
No, that's you enjoy it, and it's a way of staying in touch. What do you consider negative aspects of social media?
The negative aspects? The negative aspects of social media are the lack of face-to-face contact. For instance, I would much rather talk to my children on the telephone than via another form of social media, because I think sometimes the intonation of one's voice gives meaning to what one is saying, and when one is reading it, it's easy to misinterpret it. And there's sort of an impersonal aspect to it. It's distancing in many ways. While it's connecting, it's also distancing. So it's paradoxical.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this is sort of an overall question that touches on some of what you said before, but how have social media platforms enhanced or limited your own social interactions and information seeking, gathering, and exchange?
I don't, okay, I do not speak with my friends on the telephone in the way I did before I had social media. Uh, we speak to one another via the social media. So it's inhibited the direct personal contact via either making a date and getting together or telephoning one another. Mm-hmm. That's not true of my very close friends, but it is true of a number of acquaintances and less less personal friends. Mm-hmm.
And have social media platforms enhanced your social interactions and information exchange?
Well, certainly it's enhanced the information exchange in the sense that we have more information to exchange. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I read this, or somebody said this, or it's broadened that kind of interaction.
And do you anticipate any changes to how you will use social media in future?
I anticipate that will be texting some of the children in my life. Mm-hmm. Because that seems to be the way children are communicating with people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Most of my friends are texting with their grandchildren. That's how they keep in touch with them. Because the grandchildren, when they have a thought about someone, can just immediately text. They don't have to wait for a specific moment. It's an immediacy kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And many of my friends are enjoying that. Since I've only had my iPhone for a week and a half, I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet.
All right. All right. Any other observations that you want to share about social media, digital technologies?
Well, not really. It's not something I've really thought about very much. I have to say there are articles and opinions about the fact that sociologists and psychologists feel that social media might be inhibiting people's ability to communicate well with one another on one-on-one. That people simply are incapable of sitting down and having a conversation with one another because they have, from a very early age, depended upon the social media for their interactions with one another. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Many educators are concerned about this also. And you yourself had the experience of being electronic free for 4 days when you took a vacation sometime this year. It would be interesting, you chose to do that because you wanted to be free of it. Would that be true of other families, or will other families just give up the one-on-one and have only social media contact via the digitalized world?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It was great getting your thoughts.
You're welcome.